The 9% has become relevant because of the movements on the international market. We have recently observed for the past 2.5 months that Brent crude oil prices have been increasing, and it has increased almost to about 37% thereabout. And also the petroleum products that are very relevant to Ghana, which is petrol, diesel, LPG gas, etc., they have also increased significantly between the band of 30 to 26%, and in the case of even LPG gas, that's almost about 43%. So when you look at this kind of increases, then you need to look at and review the prices. In trying to review prices as NPA, we normally look at the consumer, his ability to pay, but also the investor and the private businessman who is bringing in the petroleum products. So having looked at both sides, and the fact that there has been the cedi depreciation, that affects the businessman, which is the oil marketing companies, and then the bulk distribution oil companies that import in these petroleum products. We want to make sure that there's a win-win situation between the consumer and the private investor. Therefore, it will not be the best if you are pricing the petroleum products at X pump below cost of bringing it to the country. And immediately we do below cost, it will mean that government would have to subsidize. And we notice that government really doesn't have the appetite to subsidize. Government previously had to struggle to pay the debts of the under-recoveries, which are the subsidies. So we think that the fair price, which is a win-win situation for both the consumer and the importer, who is a private businessman, was to be 9%. And that's why we did the 9%. But paramountly, you know that when you distort the pricing and there is subsidies, and the importer is selling below cost without a good profit margin, then there is no incentive to do that business, which will mean that there will be illiquidity challenges in the banking system. The banks will not be willing to open LCs for the bulk distribution companies, which means that there will be shortages. And one of the mandates of MPA is to make sure that there's always availability of fuel all over the country, so that there will be no disruptions. So an increase of 9% translated into 28 pesos maximum per liter, and we think that it is better for we Ghanaians to be able to pay the extra 28 pesos per liter rather than face fuel shortages. We have seen situations last year when there were shortages and disruptions for 1 week, and everybody was of the opinion that, look, even if NPA increased fuel prices and they are available, people will be willing to pay. And as I've always said, you know that when there are fuel shortages, the 9% has become relevant because of the movements on the international market. We have recently observed for the past 2.5 months that Brent crude oil prices have been increasing, and it has increased almost to about 37% thereabout. And also the petroleum products that are very relevant to Ghana, which is petrol, diesel, LPG gas, etc. They have also increased significantly between the band of 30 to 26%, and in the case of even LPG gas, that's almost about 43%. So when you look at this kind of increases, then you need to look at and review the prices. In trying to review prices as NPA, we normally look at the consumer, his ability to pay, but also the investor and the private businessman who is bringing in the petroleum products. So having looked at both sides, and the fact that there has been the cedi depreciation, that affects the businessman, which is the oil marketing companies, and then the bulk distribution oil companies that import in these petroleum products. We want to make sure that there's a win-win situation between the consumer and the private investor. Therefore, it will not be the best if you are pricing the petroleum products at X pump below cost of bringing it to the country. And immediately we do below cost, it will mean that government would have to subsidize.
Well, let me apologize for the technical hitch. These machines have a mind of their own, but thank God we are back on. Anyway, we are talking about fuel price hike in the midst of Dumsor, and I'm sure we all know what we are talking about. With me in the studio to talk about this, my immediate left is Kojo Poku, who is an energy expert, not a stranger to the show. Kojo, you're welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
And then my senior brother, Kwame Jantua, Vice Chairman for the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, and also a lawyer.
And Deputy General Secretary of the CPP.
Deputy General Secretary of the CPP. and he's a, I think Ghana is his hobby. He's a town Ghanaian, if I may say.
It is my hobby.
And Kwame, so let me start with you. On Saturday, this is vigil to speak up against Dumsor must end now. What are your opinions? Or what are your opinions on that on Saturdays?
It's good evening to fellow Ghanaians. It's everybody's right. The Constitution gives everybody the right to demonstrate peacefully, as and when they feel the need to. But really, for me, demonstrations don't do anything for me. Has it changed the situation? Demonstrations only work if government is prepared to listen. And so far as I'm concerned, even if they sent a strong petition to government, that would have had a better impact. Because it would be on the media today. People will be discussing the contents of that petition they sent to government. But just having a demonstration to demonstrate your frustrations and anger, I don't think the impact is strong enough. But having said that, people came out, the youth came out. They did come out, but do they really understand the context of what they're talking about? Do we really understand the context?
Well, he wants to come home and turn on the lights and it's on.
Yes. Do you know what it takes to do that?
Well,
do you know the situations that have led us to where we are today? And let me tell you, it didn't start today. What we're going through didn't start today. It started way back the beginning of the Fourth Republic. That is the point I would put it at, because before that we were in a military regime. Fourth Republic, that is when it started from. And why do I say that? Throughout the presidents we've had through the Fourth Republic, haven't we had Dumsor? Which one of them have had the determination to solve it once and for all? Which one of them? We've all paid lip service to it. And the challenge has been investment and management, and above all, planning of our energy sector. So we sit here today, 92 till today. 92, what was our population? We were about what? 18, 19 million? What are we today? 25 million. Who is planning against the population, the growth of the population? By 2030, we will be hitting 55 million. Who is planning against that today? Is that not government's a responsibility to do? And so we now use it as an excuse that the population has risen, the demand for electricity has risen. Do you not plan against it? Other countries that we compare ourselves to, the likes of the Britons and the UKs we compare ourselves to, and I don't understand why we compare ourselves to them, because their per capita income is much higher than ours. We should compare ourselves to our own African countries and see where they've gone. Botswana for one, South Africa is another. Where are they today and where are we today? Those countries in the Far East who came to take information from us and better their economies, where are they today? Those are the ones we should be comparing ourselves to. So I come back. Who has been planning as we go along? And now we've got to a point where it looks as if there's no turning back. Because really and truly, for immediate resolution to this Dumsor, I do not see it. And I do not hear government tell us that between today and tomorrow, this is what we're going to put in place to at least minimize it. Even if we were able to minimize Dumsor by 50%, and we had the right schedules for people to know that today your lights are going off, tomorrow your lights are coming on, people will be able to plan. Are you saying Ghanaians don't understand the situation of Akosombo? They don't understand the situation of Bui? They do understand it. But where's the planning to help them to say that, okay, today my lights are going off, let me cook today, let me not cook today, let me make sure that I've done what I have to do for the lights to go off when they then come back on. I can adjust my time. They are not doing it. So it's difficult and it's challenging. And I think to some degree, government has taken Ghanaians for granted. And you know, if this were in the previous era, it would be tantamount to a coup happening. How did Rawlings overthrow Liman? What was the reason? Were we in such a situation? It was even lesser than that. So we shouldn't take Ghanaians for granted. And government shouldn't take Ghanaians for granted. Because really and truly, the situation Ghanaians find themselves in is very challenging.
Kojo, what's your take on the vigil?
Oh, the vigil, I think it was a good step in the right direction. You know, anytime that citizenry are allowed to show what they feel, to be able to come out and demonstrate, I think more people should have come out. Ghanaians don't like to demonstrate. You know, we play lip service to everything. We get home, we eat our fufu banku, and then we think, oh, let the ordinary people who are prepared to go out. But we should have shown a lot more. And with other demonstrations that has happened in the country, I think people should desist from thinking that demonstrations are politically motivated or you have to belong if you are speaking against such Dumsor. Look, Dumsor affects everybody. And if I come out, I don't have to be tagged with a certain group of political lineage to come out and express my view. And that is why a lot of people are also scared to come out and demonstrate.
With your name, if you were seen in that crowd with a name like this, you don't have a choice but to be tagged.
Well, there you go. So I stayed at home, you know, so I stayed at home.
If you stay at home, who should go?
Well, it's, you know, there was a day that I was on a different platform, and there is this new grouping, Occupy Ghana. And somebody said, but you are Occupy Ghana. I said, well, I live in Ghana, so I occupy a space in Ghana. So I don't know if that means, but apparently there's a new grouping called Occupy Ghana, and I'm being touted to be, but I don't even know who they are. I don't even know what the group is. But like I said, it's a good thing that we came out. Like what my brother is saying, Dumsor started a long time ago. With bad planning, we are here. We even saw our big brothers in Nigeria go through this. They've been going through it over 15 to 20 years. We go there, we laugh at them, and we come back, not knowing that we are going there with the proverbial pig, where mother pig will tell baby pig, you are coming. You know, we saw them in that situation, and we thought it would never happen to us. And we are here, and they've taken 15, 20 years, and they've still not been able to solve it. So when people say that, look, we are solving this problem by the end of the month, by the end of the year, it's just laughable, because the in-depth of what is needed to solve this thing is not a yes solution.
But let me come in here. You see, at the moment, we have enough, machines to generate enough energy for what we use.
Installed capacity.
Installed capacity.
Yes.
We're just not, making them work for us to get. So,
No, you see,
so
the biggest
Nigeria case, they did not have enough installed capacity for what they needed, but we do. So we seem to be ahead.
We see our biggest Hail Mary is Akosombo. You see, that is where everybody tend to play the ball. If today, by God's grace, Akosombo is filled up, all these Dumsor will go away. Because Akosombo on its own, if it's working with all the turbines working, gives you 1,000. That takes the pressure off the thermals. So if you're able to just get 6 of all the 9 thermal plants that we have, if you're able to get even 500 or 600 megawatts out of those, you've gone over what the demand is. But Akosombo is now low. And Akosombo is what you call an old lady. It's served us for 60 years. So to look forward, we need another Hail Mary to look to. All this introduction of various thermals into the system is, like I said the other day, is coming to complicate the situation because already you have 9 thermals. They are thinking of introducing about 5 or 6 more. So you're going to have like 15 thermals in the country, giving you maybe 1,500 megawatts or 5 or 2,000 megawatts. So many ifs. If you don't have HFO, your thermal, some of the thermals wouldn't work. If you don't have gas from Nigeria, some of the thermals wouldn't work. If you don't have gas from the thermal plant, the Ghana gas, some of the gas. So there's so much ifs that we are bringing in. But my point is that, like my brother said, it's the planning. And even today, what are we planning for the next 40, 50 years? These thermals are not the solution. Look, there was this study done by Buzia. By 2000, we should have basically harnessed all our hydro potential. All the mini hydros on all the rivers should have been harnessed. Then after 2000, the Buzia plan was that we now look at our thermals to thermal capacity to now augment the hydro potentials we've utilized. Then we will now find ourselves in this day that we would have had a very much bigger installed capacity where we don't find ourselves in this situation. But when Buzia left, that thing left. And nobody down the line from the Jerry Jones to the Kofor to Mills to Mahama has done anything in terms of planning. Okay, a blueprint to show us that, look, this is the way forward for our energy sector. This is what we want to do. We don't have that. And that is the problem that we are facing. And Ghana is not going to expire, okay? So we are not an industrialized nation. If we're going to be an industrialized nation, we need heavy industries to come in. What are they going to run on? Already we have Valco. Valco is now a ghost town. Forget Valco. It can't work. So if we are planning, what are we going to do?
Valco is getting this 300 megawatts.
No, Valco is not working. Valco is not working.
I see.
No, Valco is not working. Because already, I think the order is the ECOWAS neighbors that we supply and we get dollar. They get the first priority in the power.
Okay.
Then secondly, then the mines and the industries. Then what is left? The residentials get. But my even biggest problem is when you have areas like Bron and Hafo who don't get lights off. Then when you ask, they will tell you, oh, but what they consume is small. Even if what they consume is 2 megawatts, let me, that I live in Accra, give me 12 hours on, 12 hours off. Don't put me in 24 hours because you see, the killer is the 24 hours. Because everything in your freezer will thaw in 24 hours. If you have inverters, they don't, unless you have huge inverters, which are very expensive, but most people's inverters are 12 hours. So if we are on a national scale, and when the minister, Honorable Donko, had his press conference, he said that henceforth, I'm directing ECG to bring out the timetable, and quickly they brought out the timetable. After that timetable expired, what have we seen again? We had the PRO of the Energy Ministry admitting that they've not done enough press conferences to educate the country on what the problem is, so they're going to do more. What has happened? How many press conferences have there been had to update the citizenry of the problem, what government is doing, the steps? Ghanaians are very loving and forgiving people. If the ministry are updating us on the weekly or bi-monthly basis of the challenges and the resolutions, I'm sure a lot of people would understand and be behind them and pray.
Kwame, I mean, they're bringing in 2 badges. Surely you understand that. I mean, they are bringing in 2 badges, so...
2 badges?
Yeah. 2 badges from Turkey to come in.
Nana, did you listen to what the manufacturers of the badges said? when government was telling us that the barges are coming in to relieve us, give us immediate relief from the Dumsor. Wasn't it so embarrassing for the manufacturers to come and talk on our own radio station that they are not a short-term barge manufacturer? That's why they have a 10-year contract. So what was government trying to tell us? What was government trying to tell us? You see, would have thought that with this Dumsor now, government would now sit down and say, look, the situation is dire. Stakeholders, let's all sit around the table, put our heads together, forget party politics, put our heads together and put a comprehensive energy plan together. Because it looks as if politicians in this country are only interested in winning elections. And they go to sleep after that.
And making money.
Well, that one...
That's another show.
That's another program on its own. We are only interested in winning elections. And we leave the things that are material to the development of this country somewhere else. Why are we in this situation today? Was nobody planning? Even the Nkrumah who built the Akosombo Dam, he knew that the Akosombo Dam would not take us 50 years. So within that duration of time, he was planning Bui. Within that duration of time, he brought an atomic reactor in because he knew that Ghana's industrialization was based on power. Do we not learn from that? That template is still there. Who has come up to say that, look, between now and the next 50 years, we want to reach this point. Power is the key to reach this point. Let's plan towards it. So now we are in Dumsor. Has government come to tell us that, yes, we're in Dumsor. We've seen the effect of it over the years. It should stop here. Let's all sit around the table and let's start putting things right. Who has done that? All we are interested in, yes, solve the problem now, but look to the future also. Who has sat down to talk about that? Nobody. So the moment we solve this Dumsor, 2016 is coming. People use it as a political tool to win elections and go to sleep. Is that what we are looking for? Is that what we are looking for?
So, I mean, in the midst of all this, we get a 9% price hike because international, prices are going up. Government is trying to say, look, you need to understand that the cost of the product has gone up internationally, and therefore we should also increase it. Consumers are saying that no, it's not fair, and so there's these two arguments. I want to know where you stand, thinking, look, because I mean, you're a BDC, so you bring the products in. Should it go up? Should it wait? What's the fair argument here?
You see, the question of the BDCs, if we had a government that was really thinking and planning, the question of the BDCs should have been dead by now. We shouldn't be relying on BDCs to bring petroleum products into the country by now. It was brought in for a particular purpose. That system. By now, it should have died. Why do I say that? I say that because we have a refinery in this country, don't we?
We do.
Where is the refinery today? Tema Oil Refinery is in this country. Where is that refinery today? If successive governments had come in and had increased the capacity of TOR gradually, would we be in the situation we are in today? Under recovery alone for BDCs, they run into billions. Where are we going to find the money to pay that under recovery? We go back to the people. The people do not have jobs because government is not creating any new jobs. And the private sector that are creating the jobs, there is no light for them to be able to run. They are having to buy generators to fuel their generators, to fuel power. Joy FM, what time do you close now?
12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. 12 o'clock. Now all the other stations are following suit. Why? They can't afford the price of fuel to fuel their generators. Is that how we build a nation? Is that how we build a nation? So, company like Joy FM, a private company that is hiring people to work, they cannot continue because of the power shortages. Will they not lay off people with time? because definitely their profits are going to suffer. And Joy FM, I'm sure, have shareholders, and they are responsible to their shareholders. It's the shareholders who bring in money to make sure that the company stays afloat. And if Dumsor is affecting them, is that not going to affect employment? And is government looking at that? Is government thinking that way? I would have thought that with the situation we are in, for this duration of time, subsidies will come in. But no, we have run back to the IMF. The IMF has given us money. They would want that money paid. And who's going to pay the money? Is it not the ordinary Ghanaian who's going to pay the money? Why have we gone back to the IMF? It's because we haven't been able to manage the economy properly. Let's be very honest with it. And it doesn't help us.
Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is, what then do we do? This 9%, should government absorb it?
Well, I want us to get to the basis. I really disagree with Honorable Asaga on the issue of increment. There has not been any increment. Now, let me take you through this. A year ago now, crude oil prices was $112. Okay? Gone 112, 115. Yes. Brent crude was 112, 115. Yes. Okay, a year ago.
Yes.
Now, we were paying what we were paying at that time, which is similar to what we are paying now, with this 9% increase. Then around November, government took a 17.5% bill to Parliament. It got passed, and there were some increment done in November last year. So there was about 3% or so adjustment based on the 17.5% VAT that was put on. At that time, crude has inched down to $71.70. In November, when there was an increase, crude has gone down from the 112 to 71.70. Then in January 1st, we were given a 10% reduction in the crude and ex-pump prices. At that time, when the 10% decrease was given, crude on the international market was $51.30 per barrel. Okay, then 18 days after that, it bottomed down to 49.94. That was the cheapest that Brent crude got to, $49 around the 18th January. Then in the international market, in the US, in the UK, anytime the crude prices go down, their ex-refinery and ex-pump follow suit. Yeah. And it goes down accordingly. If you go online now, you can actually plot the graph. Anytime the Brent crude goes down, their ex-pump and ex-refinery also goes down. What did we see in Ghana? Nothing. Some of us sat on this platform and asked for 40% decrease at that time. Honorable Asaga did not listen. Now, in his interview, he said that, in the last 2.5 months, there's been 37% increase in crude prices. As a result, there's been 30% increase in ex-refinery. Okay, let's take his argument. In the time from the highest time that we were paying what we are paying now, when crude was 112, so when crude became the cheapest of $49, we've had 55% decrease in crude oil prices. That will relate, from Honorable Asaga's own argument, that should relate to at least 40% in decrease in ex-refinery. Okay? Now, he didn't see that. He only saw 2.5 months ago. So now, when the Europeans have allowed their ex-refinery to bottom up and it's coming up, he is now seeing the rise and saying that Ghanaians should pay because there's a rise. You are not part of that rise. Sure, you are not part of that decrease to be part of that rise. You stayed where you are. And they gave us all excuses. They gave us forex recovery, all excuses. So please, Honorable Asaga, don't tell us that there's increases, because there's been no increases as far as Ghanaians are concerned. Because what we are paying now is what we were paying last year, June. So where is the increase? Now, if the only factor that has changed is the cedi to the dollar. Last year, June, dollar to the cedi was 2.45. Now it's almost 4. So that is the problem. Come, put your hands up. I have failed you, Ghanaians. Please, I will do better next time. We'll cascade you, we say all sorts of things, but tell us the truth. Don't tell us that prices of crude has inched up. Inched up from where? The 48% that you are talking about, you were not part of it, because you did not give us any reduction. So why are you going to even talk about it? And you can only see as far back as 2.5 months. Why can't Honorable Asaga see from January?
I'm going to take a break here. Could it be that, all the windfall that the government made, if used to pay the BDCs, so in theory we are starting afresh? What would the answer be? Stage. Well, thank you very much for staying. We're looking at price hike in the midst of Dumsor. And your comment on Facebook, good. Keep your comments coming on Facebook. Log on to Joy News channel and post your comment there, and I'll read it up to you. This one is from Hamazi Felix. Says, Nana, this is effect of technology as far as it is automatic adjustment formula system. So you think it has to go up. Joe El Nate Primo Godfather says, Idebi Keke. This is better Ghana. In fact, the better Ghana we were promised. Let us enjoy. This one is from Al Hassan Jibri. Says, does that mean prices of everything is going to increase again? So what are they saying about the sale of the CFA and the CDs? I'm not sure about that. Ousukojo says, I don't even understand this NDC people. Where is the money President Mahama said he was keeping for the next increment of petrol on the market? And then Prince Nuruddin Baumia says, what a curse. What a curse government in the history of Ghana. Ghanaians are crying because of poor economy, and yet you decide to add more hardship and burdens to the detriment of the citizenry. Leo says, Ghana makes slower. And the comments are coming. Bismarck Opokujan, the president needs prayers and advices. Keep your comments coming, and I'll catch up as the show goes along. But I'll go straight to Kwame and say, Kwame, maybe when prices hit, 49.9, there was a windfall, and we've paid the backlog, because of CD, dollar depreciation, and under recoveries, and so now we are starting on a clean sheet.
Really?
Well, that's because they paid up to...
I am connected with the BDC, and still under recoveries haven't been paid to date. Haven't been paid to date. Hence, banks are resisting from taking LCs from BDCs to bring refined petroleum products in. You see, I believe that before Honorable Asaga and the MPA raised the prices, they should have come to Ghanaians to give us a balance sheet of the monies that accrued from the time petrol, the fuel, the crude prices dropped. And they should have told us, this is how much we made, this is how much we have spent, this is the balance. However, that balance is not enough to take us forward. So we need to increase by 9%. Who did that? Who did that? Because at the time, when Ghanaians were crying for a decrease in petrol prices, what did they say? We owe the BDC so much money, which is true, and so we need to collect that money to be able to pay the BDCs back. Has that happened? Has that happened? So you see, Ghanaians sit back and feel we have been taken for granted.
You see, I know in the UK, they have an 80% tax on fuel. So if you spend literally £10 at the pump, £2 went into your car, £8 goes into roads, hospital, whatever it is they're going to use it for. And so therefore, if the prices comes down, that 80% is still there, and it just moves up and down as and when. Do we have a figure so that at the pump, I know that, listen, if I buy 10 cedis of fuel, look, 5 cedis is going to the state, and 5 cedis is what I put in my tank, so that at every given time I know there's a 5 CD on whatever it is I'm buying. I don't know. Do we have
These are some of the things that Ghanaians should be educated on. There's a certain percentage of tax.
About 55%.
Of tax.
About 55%. The tax where you pay ex-pump, there's about 55% taxes. Yes. In there. So that's why sometimes I don't understand when they say there's subsidy. What subsidy? Because you have 55% build up taxes in there. So what are you subsidizing? If you really want to bring the price down, take down the taxes. So if you reduce the prices, if you reduce the taxes, it will reduce the prices.
But then...
Let me give you another example. jet fuel, the fuel that goes into aeroplanes, hasn't the price of jet fuel and crude come down? Hasn't it come down? Do you know how much it costs to fly from here to South Africa? And majority of that money is taxes. It's taxes. You see, what I don't understand is that government should be able to tell us point for point what these taxes are being used for. Yes, they'll tell you it goes into the consolidated fund. The moment money hits the consolidated fund, does it not get mixed up and get lost? I'm not saying somebody has chopped the money, but how it is invested, does it not get lost in the whole gamut of consolidated fund?
Kwame, let me acknowledge, actually, joining us on the phone is Duncan Amwa, and he's the Executive Secretary for the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. So basically, he's speaking for consumers who use petroleum products. Duncan, you're welcome.
Thank you, and good evening to your cherished viewers.
Very good evening, right? Good evening
to you. At this time.
Exactly. I mean, you are obviously for your position, and with this 9%, and I'm trying to justify that, maybe we are starting from a clean sheet because we've paid the BDCs whatever money we collected for the windfall, and therefore maybe this 9% increase is justifiable. But where do you come from the consumer's point of view?
Unfortunately, we would have wished that there was a clean slate to actually be starting from, as you were rightly putting it. But even with this current increment, which we find highly unjustifiable, the NPA is still insisting that between March and April, there's been some under-recoveries of 116 million or 146 million. I'm not too certain of the figure, but that is what they are insisting for now, that there's been some under-recoveries and for which they need to increase to be able to, make do that shortfall or the difference. And it is quite mind-boggling and baffling if the Ghanaian will be treated this way. Why do we say this? Initially, we were even pressing that if it starts well with, the law, we would test the Supreme Court with the MPA with this. Let's go back to last year, August. The fuel dynamics began to show positive, signs. That's to say the city had started making gains, against the dollar and the other major trading currencies. So if you would remember, the city made almost 28% gains from about 3.9 exchange to $1 to about 3.1, 2.9 thereabouts. It made significant gains. Then the world market for crude also moved from about $106 a barrel to somewhere around 60, 50. When the consumer complained, the MPA insisted that there was some debt accumulation of some 412 million they needed to clear with the BDC. So they could not come down much other than some 10% they gave to the Ghanaian consumer. We all accepted and said, look, if you could use the windfall to offset that debt, at least we could start from a clean slate. We got to somewhere January 31st. Muzafaga was categorical that the NPA had been able to settle the difference, whatever under recoveries that these BDCs accumulated, and that he had used part of the windfall. It was not even the entire amount, part of the windfall. These are his exact words, and I'm quoting him. He had used part of the windfall to settle the BDC claims of 412 million. But where we began as an organization suspecting foul play was a week exactly after Asaga had declared that they had paid the BDC. These BDCs did a quick U-turn and came back publicly to claim that government was rather owing them 1.5 billion. I think you remember that figure, that bit, somewhere in February, that government was owing them rather 1.5 billion, which got all of us, asking, were we taking the fuel for free at the pumps? Or indeed they were selling to make whatever recovery? And if there were differences, I'm not quite sure the figures would be so staggering and so high. But this is the sort of game the NPA has played with all of us in Ghana over the past 1 year, over the past period.
We seem to be able to take everything like... Duncan, hold on for me, because I want to take your comment on this. I have with me in studio Kwame Jantua and Kojo Poku. Kojo, let me start with you. So we can... Should we be deregulated where, I can just go out, bring my fuel and come and sell it at whatever price I want? You also go and bring yours and probably try and, outsmart me. I don't know. Should we deregulate the market?
That is what it is. Look, not all the BDCs buy fuel at the same price. Look, there is what you call Plat. And the Plat is a platform which you have to sign on to. The reason some of us cannot even quote you Plat prices is that it is a private platform which trade in finished products. Okay? Now, everybody buys fuel at a different price. You buy it Plat plus minus 258 or Plat plus 10, 4, 5. It's everybody buys fuel at a different price. No two companies buy fuel at the same price on the Plat because they are brokers. And as is demand and supply, if you find a broker in Switzerland and he has a lot of product to push, he can give you Plat minus 5.
Minus 10.
Okay? You can find somebody who has maybe the new BDCs wants to get something quickly. Say who go to somebody, it may be in the UK platform, and that person will give him Plat plus 12. They all bring their products to Ghana. And that is why when one of your people who made the comment said, oh, it's automatic adjustment, so it should go up. That is not true. There is a pricing formula. In that formula, if you bring your Plat plus or minus whatever, you plug it in. Government takes its taxes. You pay your insurance. You pay all the bills you need to pay. And it should equal to a certain amount. The deregulation that happened is such that Oando or Total or Guel, not all of them buy fuel at the same price. So their forecourt prices should be different. So I could drive around and say, look, there's a Guel in Kaswa. It's cheaper than the Total in Hachu. So I will drive to Kaswa and buy fuel.
Kwame does that a lot.
No, but that is how...
In the UK,
that is how it's
I'll buy at Tesco.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You go to Sainsbury's, it's cheaper. That is what the deregulation is supposed to bring. Now, what do we have? Every price forecourt is the same, which is wrong. It's not supposed to be.
Kwame, politically, what is the fear? Why won't you look? It's, go and bring your fuel and come and sell it. I don't want to be part of it.
It's control. Really and truly, MPA should be concerned with compliance alone.
Yes,
compliance. That should be the responsibility and stay out of the equation of, fixing prices. The years of fixing prices has passed. The same way I say the constitution we are dealing with today is in the past because Ghana has moved forward. The same way MPA at the present moment shouldn't be doing what they are doing in terms of setting the prices. It's past. They should leave the market forces to regulate the prices. And you, as MPA, as regulator, make sure that compliance works.
Let me take a quick break here, and then when I come back, I want to take just one last comment from Duncan, being that he's a consumer. Would he prefer, a free market where they are price fighting, or does he prefer this regulated one? Stay tuned, I'm coming back. Well, thank you very much for staying. Let me quickly go onto the phones and get Duncan's view on this. Duncan, have I still got you?
Yes, I'm still here. And, very much alive with the discussion.
Very good. Would you prefer a deregulated, petroleum industry like the mobile phones where they are, competing against each other? You buy a gallon, I give you a liter free, and then, we just...
You see, ideally, I think we should have even been at that stage where we are now. this deregulation discussion started somewhere 2007. So one would have expected that over the period, we would have gotten to the final stage where the regulator only sets a price ceiling beyond which, you know, these OMCs or BDCs will not be allowed to sell. So they just set a ceiling, leave it. If Gulf feels where and how they got their products is a bit cheaper, they can go 5% lower. I'm sure Glory Oil, Allied Oil will want to do 6-7%. All these will inure to the benefit of the consumer and the Ghanaian public. Of course, if you choose also to go to another OMC or a pump that sells it at, you know, the ceiling, that will be a choice. But clearly you would have found some of these OMCs or the pumps selling below because they would want to attract, you know, economies of scale. The more they sell, the little more they will get, you know, and where they get their products, like Lawyer Jan was also saying, would indicate as to whether, like today, as we speak, if this deregulation policy is in full effect, I can say without, you know, a shred of doubt that gold could have come down by a further 5 percentage points. Gold, I can say, from whatever background work we've done. But obviously, we operate in a system where there's price uniformity. You know, the regulator sets, you know, the pricing, and the industry conforms. It is a bad practice.
Duncan, thank you.
This is unsustainable.
Duncan,
also to say, yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm running out of time, so let me come to quietly because you raised something about goil. I mean, as citizenry, should we play, you know, protectivism and buy from goil because, I mean, they will keep their profits in here, whereas the others will take their profit away, putting more pressure on our dollar. So, I mean, every Ghanaian should drive to a goil and buy petrol. I mean, should we cultivate
goil
that?
Should be the one petrol garage that could bring competition into the system. Why? Because goil is now a BDC. Goil has the license to bring in their own refined petroleum product for their petrol stations. And as my brother said, we all get our petrol, refined petrol from different sources.
But
at
because gold
different
is big,
prices.
it could negotiate
It
more.
could negotiate and even get it at a lower price than I would get it from BP or I'd get it from Shell. And because of that, they could now kick a competition war within the petroleum market and prices will begin to drop. The moment they drop, people will start going to goil in their numbers. And the other petrol garages will realize that they are losing out and they'll have to bring their prices down. Who benefits?
But I know they do a similar thing. Their FX, they have a premium. They sell their premium the
normal
same price as what Shell sells their premium.
Yes.
So goil already does that. So their premium,
they haven't sold it well.
Well, they sell their premium price the same price. When you go to the other filling stations, you pay a little bit more for their premium, super and premium.
Yeah.
Goil is the same price.
Yeah, because I know they do the additive and everything. So those who have to have these supercharged engines, you can buy it at the same regular price. Yeah. But I think, you know, Ghanaians should start being Ghanaians and start buying.
We should be a bit patriotic and we should do a lot of education for Ghanaians to understand what goes into buying petroleum
an unofficial goil ambassador. Let's buy goil and keep it in the country, keep the profits in the country. But gentlemen, that's what time will allow us. This is not a conversation that we can exhaust in an hour, but at least we started. I want to say thank you to Tantees Fashion, who designs all the African prints I've ever worn on this show. And if you can reach Tantees on 024 366 2001. 024 366 2001. Give them a call and have your designs made for you. And say thank you to Famous, to Nee, to Jennifer, doing the production, Azalu for shouting in my ear, yet directing me nicely. Thank you very much. Sorry for the hiccup in the beginning, but one day we'll sit here and Dumsor will be a thing of the past.
It doesn't get doom.
You know, as Professor Dai says,
yes,
doom, doom.
No Dumsor.
Tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Thanks for watching.